Oh, this is a Nonsensory Nugget episode. What are we on now?
This is
Five?
five.
Five. All right. Hey, this is episode 5 of Nonsensory Nuggets, our small little bits that we give you every week.
Nugget chunks, baby. Nugget chunks.
So
Blop.
today we'll be discussing Madden 21, and it will drop. And
Much like a nugget. Much like a nugget, Madden 21 will drop Washington's NFL team's former name and logo.
Why? Okay. All right. Madden 21 will drop Washington NFL team's former name and logo. Yes, you just read that. We have this article by Stephen Totillo at Kotaku.
Steven Tostitos.
We are pleased to see Washington's decision to change their name and visual identity. An EA rep said to Kotaku, quote, "We are quickly working to update Madden NFL 21 to feature a generic Washington team while we await final word on the updated team name and logo design. Changes to the name and logo will come via title updates that will download automatically," the EA rep explained. The first changes will be available to our EA Access players and will include audio commentary updates, motion graphics, and presentation updates, stadium art, environments, crowd gear, and signage updates, and uniform updates. Players may continue to see some outdated Washington references in other areas of the game at launch, but we are committed to removing all of those from the game in additional title updates coming shortly after launch. Players who purchase a physical disc will need to connect online to receive Washington team changes, as the game is now in final stages of preparation before shipping, they said.
So I think this is the first time this has ever happened. Definitely in a Madden game, but I can't recall another game where they, at the 11th hour, just like completely tried to erase a certain part of it.
I don't know.
If you can think of something, audience, please let us know in the comments. Or
Yeah,
send us
absolutely.
An email at nonsensorypod@gmail.com.
We are genuinely very curious.
Yeah.
So if there's something that we're
I'm
missing.
a lazy man and I don't like to Google. So why don't you do it for me?
No, this is quite an extreme day one patch, I'll call it, even though that's not quite what it is. But it may as well be.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it's just aligning with what the NFL teams has said that they want to do after they've been continuously pressured. I mean, they've been pressured for years to change the Redskins name.
Dude, so I lived in Maryland. I attended elementary school in Maryland. Okay. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was in elementary school, this was a debate.
Yeah, no, it has been for literally ever.
Yeah.
And I guess with, the BLM protests and everything that's going on right now, and just the general unrest surrounding like racial issues and stuff, this was the final tipping point, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It finally, because none of the arguments have changed. That's the thing, is that, like, the arguments have been the same. It's just been like, no, we don't care. We're not going to change. And then finally we've reached the point where there's actionable.
That's where I am. Okay. So I've always been okay with them changing their name if that's what they want to do.
Right.
Like, whatever, change your name. But the idea that for all of this time you're like, no, it's not, and now you're like, well, okay, but nothing has changed. Like, so every argument you've made up to this point has been disingenuous, is what you're telling us.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. That's, if you boil it down to it, yeah, that's it. It's like, well, actually, we've been full of crap the entire time.
Yeah. So I'm not happy with you changing your name.
Yeah,
because it just makes you out like you just lied.
Yeah.
All this time. For 30 years, you've just lied to everyone.
Yeah, basically. You've been like, no, this is what we really believe. The funniest thing for me from this whole thing is that, like, people that are like, people don't have a problem with this or whatever. Look at this poll that they released, and it's like a poll conducted by the team from like a bunch of years ago. That's like, Native Americans don't care that we called our team the Redskins. It's just like, gee, I wonder how like reliable those results are. Team that wants to not change your name. Thank you for showing me results that say that people don't want you to don't want you to change your name. It's hilarious.
I will say, okay, as I have already said, I don't care if they want to change their name or not.
Mm-hmm.
Is it offensive? I will say yes, it is offensive.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of people walking around. This isn't one of those buts that negates everything I just said. This is just an and this.
What kind of butt is it?
There are people that are walking around now that are wearing like the shirts that have like the white person's head cut off and it says Caucasians.
Yeah.
That doesn't offend me, not even a little.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know.
I just like this has never mattered to me.
No.
Like, and I don't know, like if somebody was to come up to us and be like, "Yo, the Steelers name is just offensive," you know, I don't know how it would be. Don't take it as like there's any logic to it at all. As a hypothetical, you know, if somebody was like, "Your team name is offensive, you need to change it."
My daddy died in a coal mining accident.
Iron
mining accident.
An iron mine. My daddy was in the iron mines getting all that ore. But I don't know. I just can't imagine myself being that invested in like a sports team name. But then again, like I don't make my entire identity around sports, you know, and which is like I read a lot of sports news, you know, like I read a lot of news. So it's not like I'm not like hooked into that side of things. It's not like I'm not a sports fan. It's just like, so don't you just want to watch the sport? Like who cares?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I will give it to anyone who says it's offensive to them. I'll give you that argument. I absolutely see how it is an offensive name. Because there was a whole thing. So the whole deal, for anyone who is unaware, I was educated on this matter when I actually moved up here from Maryland in my 7th or 8th grade social studies teacher actually informed me. I think we were just talking because he was also my detention teacher. So actually, you know, the only time I learned was when I was in detention. Anyway, so we were talking about this. His name is Mr. Huntsinger, and he's awesome. I don't know if he retired or anything. Shout out to you. Anyway, but he pointed out that the Redskins were named the Redskins. The idea of Redskins came from they would used to hang up pictures similar to the Redskins logo in like doorways of shops, and you could actually bring in the scalps of Indians and get money. You know, for the scalp of
basically bounties.
Yeah, so extremely offensive. I would say,
and it's not. It's also tied into the idea of like exterminating those people.
Yeah,
it's like directly tied into like we need to eliminate these people so that we can manifest destiny across this whole damn country.
Like, I absolutely, I think it was about time for the name to change.
Mm-hmm. What do you think they'll change it to? Because like other DC, like you look at the Washington Capitals, you know,
or Senators.
Yeah, it like, you know, it has something to do with the government because it's in Washington, it's in DC. It has something to do with like America, like the Washington Nationals and stuff. Like everything else is like related to the idea that this is the capital of our nation. So I think that they'll probably do something along those lines.
It makes you wonder why Redskins was a choice to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. It is kind of a bizarre thing to like. I don't know. There's like Native American iconography all over the place. Like why did Cleveland decide to call their team the Indians?
I mean,
you know, or like the Atlanta Braves. Like I'm sure there's some sort of like a Native American history going that ties into those specific locations, maybe. But
I want, like, okay, so Redskins has the unfortunate title. At least having the picture isn't necessarily a negative. And so what I mean is there's another side that could say, if it wasn't for the name, because the name is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But if it's just like the iconography, the picture of a warrior, you know, and the feathers and everything, you can at least make the claim that it's like we're trying to, put forth. Do you know where I'm trying to say? I'm having a hard time finding my words. I kind of lost my train of thought. Like,
kind of like
honor the Native Americans that were here.
I don't.
At least kind of try to.
I think best of intentions. You know, you could say that, right? Where you're like, we wanted to honor.
Well, like the high school that I went to, the sports team was the Warriors, the Warwick Warriors, and it had the picture of a Native American in the headdress. And as far as I mean, let me know, but I don't think there's anything offensive about that.
I think that
having the cut off head of an Indian that says Redskins, that's pretty offensive. It's hard to misconstrue that one, but when it's like Warriors, what do you picture when you hear the name? When you hear Warriors, Warriors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that. I don't see anything wrong with that.
No, yeah, that's fair. I think that there's a distinction there that you're making, and I think I agree with it. You know, where it's like one is. I mean, one's a racist term, and the other one is, you know, Warriors is just crosses racial boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Every ethnicity has warriors that you know we always kind of look up to. As
I mean, like the United States military, what do we call them? Warriors.
Mm-hmm. You know, there are soldiers, but they're warriors. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the problem that people have with just using Native American iconography as a team name is usually it is like leveraging their history in a way that gains you money. You know, so like the Washington Redskins, you know, how involved were they in giving back to the Native American community?
So,
you know, and stuff like that. Like, I think that realistically, it's like if you're the Washington Redskins and you're going like, no, we're paying tribute to you guys, and it's like, well, you know what?
How about some dollars?
Yeah, Native Americans aren't really treated that well in this country, and we like on average have like worse incomes, worse education, like
they
less
suffer the
resources,
most from alcoholism.
Yeah, like if you really want to pay tribute to the Native Americans in this country, like how about you help them out? You know, and I don't think that's too much to ask from like $1 billion industry either. Now,
this is getting to be our longest nonsensory nugget ever, but.
Well, then let's just wrap it up.
No, not one more comment, if you'll indulge me. So I don't honestly know where I fall in the whole argument over what do they call that? Yeah.
I know what you're trying to say. Dang it. I can't think of
reparations.
The word. Yes.
I don't know where I fall in that argument because I've heard a lot of arguments on one side and a lot on the other, and I try to be open. Like, yes, I am really conservative, and I'll admit that. But I always try to give voice to or give my I try to listen to every side and make an honest opinion based on how I interpret everything. And like I've listened to arguments on one side and arguments on the other side, and I'm like, okay, reparations, I don't know. Like one part of me is like, yeah, I mean, it would be kind of good, but the other side's like, yeah, but where's it come from? Are you going to have people who moved here? I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But when it comes to the Indians that were like, we're sitting on Indian territory, you know, and in the case of the Washington Redskins, using their name for profit or racist stereotype or whatever for profit, and then they're, you know, they have the highest suicide rate in the country among ethnicity. They have the highest rate of alcoholism. They have no land. Like, why let's see the Washington Post give or what is it, the Washington Post or whatever. Let's see some places give back some Indian land.
Mm-hmm.
Why should the Indian reservations be on such tiny little squares in the middle of deserts with absolutely nothing? Let's see some Indian territory restored. I'm not talking about let's give up our whole country, okay? But why don't we make right by promises that were made in the past? I think that as a society we could afford to do that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and I don't think that you need to go ahead and
now the reason I make that argument is because, like I said, with reparations, there's a lot of sticky arguments there, and it's I don't know. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I think it's okay to say you don't know, but in the case of the Indians, there were actual legal documents signed that were just ripped up and thrown out. That's wrong. Yeah. Let's honor the agreements that we've made.
Yeah.
Paper arguments or agreements, mm-hmm. and live by them. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, and I think that when you get into reparations, you start to talk a little bit about like where does it end? Like who gets to decide, how do you put a value on something like that, right? How do you put a value on the damage that you've done to the Native American, Native Americans in this country? It's like impossible to do. But for somebody like the Washington Redskins, I think that changing your name is a good start.
Oh yeah,
and committing to at least supporting more Native American causes, and just donating to schools, stuff like that, like would go a long way to try to heal the damage that's been done. And I think that it shouldn't come down to a football team doing stuff like this. I think that it should come down to possibly our government doing stuff like this.
I think I went this extended nugget, and never actually talked about what the article was about at all.
Well, I mean, the only reason I put it in here was kind of as a jumping off point to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because they changed their name, and it's an NFL product, and Madden's going to change the logo because duh.
I think you're right. It's a good starting point. This is a massive day one update, and
some turd out there is going to get mad.
I think you don't win at things like this.
I'm going to buy the disc copy and never play online, so that they can't change the name.
Look, you're going to upset people on this side. You're going to upset people on this side, and this is one of those ones where I feel like it's so clear cut. Mm-hmm. It's so wild. Like if you would go out and buy the disc and never update it, like you just said, like whatever, buddy. Congratulations on you've won your racist trophy. Like you've earned it. Hang that thing up. Thanks for listening to another Nonsensory clip. You can check us out in audio form by finding us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. If you'd rather see us floundering around, subscribe to us on YouTube or come check out our regular Tuesday stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/nonsensory at 7:30 Eastern Time. On social media, we tweet at Nonsensory1, and you can find us on Facebook at Nonsensory Podcast. You can also support us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/nonsensorypod.